everyone. Welcome back again to the next installment of Open House. Today we're going to be talking with Timothy from Epson, and I will be giving away another Christmas in July box, so make sure you participate in the chat. And yeah, and also big thanks to Epson for gifting us an F570 to give away as a grand prize for Open House. So yeah, I think they may be having a little bit of connection problems. So whenever you guys are ready, there we go. There we go. Hi, Timothy.
See if we can get our microphones going. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you
All
sound
right.
great.
Well, this has been I'm so glad that, thanks for inviting us to be able to present and be part of this event. It's such an awesome event. I know we're excited about all the cool things you can do. I'm here myself. I'm Tim Check, a senior product manager here at Epson America, covering our textile products from dye-sublimation direct to garment. And I also have, you'll see me in just a moment here, is my partner in crime, Paul Morales, who's our senior application specialist, who really knows these products day in and day out and does so many different tips and tricks that we're going to go through and talk about some of the things we can do with this larger size printer. It's a little bigger than our standard letter size printer. So Sprite, I appreciate you the introduction, and yeah, we're excited. We have one of these new SureColor F570 printers as a nice giveaway. That I think someone's going to be really pleased to be able to open up a lot more creativity with a larger size print system. So with that said, we're going to just jump in and really kind of have some fun with this. A little bit more just about what can you do with a bigger printer and how that can help you both just creatively as well as also how it can make you become a little bit more efficient in being able to what you do on a regular basis. So to start that out, we're just looking a little bit about what can you do if you're not limited to the kind of a standard 8.5-inch size print where you're making beautiful coffee mugs, and types of smaller tchotchkes and gifts and all sorts of things ready that people really like personalized items, whether it's a little small photo keychain that goes on there with a picture of their children. Or other types of products. When we start getting bigger, we can do some more things, and it's kind of fun. If you weren't limited to printing on just a regular size sheet of paper, but you can go bigger, what would you do? And this is where we just want to highlight some of the different types of applications that people are using in prints, what they're making, and why they're being able to do this. And I've seen some of the questions already that have been in our question list. Is a big number of them is how do you take pieces and tape them together? How do you put prints together to make a bigger sized item? Well, one of the easy ways is use a tool that gives you a bigger size print to begin with, which is really so much easier way to do it. Certainly there are ways to do things if you're going to make one or two just to kind of prove a concept where you can put smaller pieces together to try to make a bigger product. But if you do this regularly and you really don't want to have the hassle of trying to figure out all the taping and trying to get seams to line up, using the right tool for the job really can make your life pretty easy. So that's it. Let's actually just jump into it. I always like to start my morning with some coffee. So this isn't anything fancy. This is one of our Unisub hardboards. That's a nice kind of a signs of the times type board that works really good for being able to come up with different things. It's certainly a little bit bigger. This is about a 13-inch. With print, which there's different size printers that can help with it, but when we start getting into bigger and we start doing pillows, throw pillows, well, you might be looking about a 20-inch pillow, or you want to do pillowcases. Well, you need some bigger ways to do that. This printer is able to go and do a lot more fun things as we start getting going with our print systems. Certainly as we start getting into photo metal, there's all different size photo metals, but we start printing things on here. One of the things that I always like to kind of take note of, if you're making a 4x6 photo and you're trying to sell that product, whether it's someone gives you an image file and then you do it and you put it onto this nice photo metal material, it's a good value product. You can make some good money with that. But as that size goes from like a 4x6 to an 8x10, the value that you can make for that, that you can sell it at a higher price goes up. And as you start going bigger to a 20x30 or to a 30x40 or a 40x60, the value can go dramatically up. And some of these Chromolux products, I think on the high end, off one of our 44-inch printers, which we'll show over here in a moment, printing a 40 by 60, I think. It all comes down to the artwork, unfortunately. But I know one of the artists has sold a print for over $300,000, just a 40 by 60 print off of one of these print systems. And a lot of that just goes, it's content, so your design qualities, what you're coming up with, what you're producing, but also the size of these people. There's definitely a lot more value to it. So you're not limited. You're not limiting your creativity just to a small size print. You really can go big with it. And this is just a little bit on the with my 24-inch printer that I have behind me, but I'm going to introduce you to Paul now, who's going to just show us a couple of the larger size prints and some of the other things you can do with as you start getting bigger prints and into different areas other than just some decor and personalized gifts. So Paul, if you don't mind, just kind of showing us a little bit more, some more applications and what's possible with a larger size print system.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Paul Morales, application specialist here. And picking up right where he left off, we were talking about larger Chromolux panels. So this is an example of one of those here that we can produce off our 44-inch wide printer right here. So we can make much larger sizes. You can see this one's glossy. The one that we held up earlier was a matte finish, and you have a few flavors in between as well. So depending on your application, you have a lot of options in terms of how you want the look and feel of your graphic to be. And then to my left over here, we have some other examples of some larger items that can be produced on the 44-inch wide format. And this is one of my favorites right here. So I love blankets, and I love throw rugs, and I love heather style blankets as well. And this is one of my favorite style of products right here. It works very well on a large flat heat press as well as a calendared press. Nice and easy to print roll to roll, have your prints on a take up, and then you can take that take up over to your calendared press, and then you can basically marry those together with a roll of fabric, or you can drop blankets on there as well. It's a very seamless and easy process to do, and it's a lot of fun. This is an example of another blanket that we have over here, more of a heavier fleece style blanket, really popular with the kids right now with their favorite cartoon characters and what have you. These are very, very comfortable and rich and vibrant in color. We get great print results out of these types of blankets as well. And then taking a look at some other items here that can be actually produced on both formats is maybe some smaller items like these towels here, or like what I have hanging off the printer right now, some coffee mug templates. But one of the things that we can take advantage of with this larger size printer is the ability to nest and group our graphics together, but also to perform some tiling and some step and repeat type of applications. And so that's something that we'll display for you a little bit later on. Now, one other great thing that can be done with a wider format printer is cut and sew materials like cut and sew sports apparel. And so this is an example of a bicycle jersey that is printed in multiple separate pieces and then can be sewn together. And what's great about that is we have nice seamless transition between the different pieces, so we don't have any areas without any color if we desire. And we can also do the same process for an all-over sublimated t-shirt to supplement that as well. So this is just a few examples of some of the larger items that can be done. And we'll talk a little bit more about the business and marketing aspect of things. We'll talk also about ways that we can utilize these particular files within our software to get the most out of our printer, maximize the efficiency of our paper, while also minimizing waste in production. And so to kind of tee off of some of those topics, let's pass it back over to Tim.
Well, thank you, Paul. That was really good, man. I'll tell you that those cycling jerseys, I can't wait to actually get back out. And we're in Southern California, so it's usually pretty nice weather. And you know, after being I don't know, just getting out and about and getting some exercise in here is pretty good. And some of those different materials that are there feel so good and they breathe so well. It really, for performance apparel, you can do some great stuff with it. So thank you for showing us some of the larger, just to kind of just scratching the surface of some of the larger product ideas that you can use with a large format printer. As we start going from 24-inch and we're saying 44-inch printers, just keep in mind, none of these printers, just because the printer happens to be able to print up to that width, doesn't mean that it can't do smaller items. So the printer behind me, for example, it does support up to 24-inch width printing. So you can be able to do pretty large items with this. If you want to do all over sublimated t-shirts, that's where we need to really kind of step up to the next size up. Can do up to about a 5 extra large size shirt. But with this, we can put in small size sheets too. So we can put in the regular size mug papers or regular letter size paper, or in spots in between. It really does. That way you're not spending so much extra paper to print out an item that might be pretty small. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit from just what you can do to what are some of the things that how this can help your business. So right now we're kind of in that spot. It's we love the theme of decorate your life. And I know as we start getting into the fall, we really start getting into the gifting, and people really want to have all sorts of personalized items. So while we like to use the equipment to decorate our life, we have the opportunity, and many of our customers have the opportunity to go and sell products that help other people decorate their life. And so one of the things, how we can go with some of these prints, whether you're just doing things like, again, coffee mugs or some smaller items, tote bags, there are advantages to using a larger format system that can really help your production or be able to run this, whether you do this as a side business or you do this this is your full-time job. You can become a lot more efficient with some of the larger print systems. And so I want to just highlight a couple spots to it. One of the things is, I like using some of these examples, but like the corkback drink coasters. These are great products. People love these things. A 4-pack of these that are nicely decorated. Most customers will easily pay $20 to $25 for personalized pictures of their kids or their family or their favorite sport cars or different sports teams. They love these things, right? So if you're making one of these coasters today, we typically print our sheet. We put this married up with our transfer paper. I like to use a lot of the heat transfer tape that helps hold everything down nice in place. And then we put this to our heat press and away we go. And I got my one coaster. But when you start doing production, that's really kind of tedious to go and do that with. And this is where when you start using items like production jigs. So these coasters, they simply fit right into this little jig. And so this makes it easy. So you can put on each one of these jigs, we take our designs, we have all our designs, and when we print them, it's one sheet that goes over the entire area. And so we can put 8 different coasters on, in this particular case of a 3 3/4 inch corkback coaster, we can create 8 of these coasters every time we print, and every time we bring this over to the heat press, it's simply just putting the sheet over the top, pressing this whole block with the coasters on here, and then we're able to produce 8 at a time, which really dramatically speeds up the time. We don't have to tape the transfer paper to every single piece of coasters. We just do it once for the whole entire block. Depending on the types of items, whether it's smaller items, you could have, if you're doing personalized like dog tags, you could probably do, I know some of these type of jigs can be, doing 30 or 36 of those at a time. So you can really speed up. If you got an order for an event and you wanted to help create a lot of different products, a much faster way of doing it by taking advantage of the larger size. You can use production jigs to be able to help you with that. Some of the other stuff that happens here, and I won't go too much in the details. I know we actually want to see the equipment run and some of the features that are happening. When we get into the larger format printing, one of the cool things about these is not only do they do sheet paper printing, but they also do roll feed paper printing. And so with our SureColor F570, just using this as one of the examples, we can have both, could be 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11 inch sheets coming up from the top, feeding in here, and we can have roll paper. And so if I was printing a mug and I was going to print mugs, I can print 2 mug designs or 3 mug designs side by side in here. We call that like a 2 up or a 3 up. So we can print 3 at a time. When it prints, the paper will only it'll print the full width. So I got my mug patterns being repeated, but it's only going to use the paper for that, for the size of the mug. So it may only be a 6-inch slice of paper. That gives me a little extra to do all my taping. And so I only use 6 inches by 24 inch on my print size to be able to produce that. So be able to produce 3 mugs, I can really reduce the amount of paper I'm using. If I was going to just make one, I can have the printer just auto switch and just print onto the sheet paper, and that way I'm not using the roll. And that way it really helps you to use the best size fit paper rather than using, because let's be honest, with Epson's dye-sub product line, the paper is really it's pretty inexpensive to print, and the paper is usually the cost. The ink really doesn't cost hardly anything to produce these designs. So if you can minimize the amount of paper you're using to be more efficient or get more designs on the piece of paper that you're producing, that's going to help you lower some of your costs. As we keep going on, there's definitely more to this. And I know when we start talking a little bit more, I'm going to hand this back over to Paul, who's going to show you not only a little bit of the workflow software that can help you be more productive and be extremely efficient, so you're not doing manual layouts and pieces here. We're going to talk about that. But he also has some other samples to show some of the, as we start getting bigger equipment, the inks and spots we have here, that they come in larger capacity sizes, so there's less cost. It's a lower cost ink set, but it also doesn't mean you need to refill your printer or reload your ink as frequently. So those are some additional savings. But for that, I don't want to take all of Paul's thunder, so I'm going to hand it back over to Paul to walk us through a little bit more about how we can be more efficient in our printing process and with a large format system.
Great, thank you, Tim. So to kind of pick up right where you left off, if I move over to my left over here, looking at some of these consumables that we have some larger size ink packs right here. And this makes our ink usage much more efficient because, as Tim mentioned, we're filling it much less often and we don't have to monitor it closely compared to the smaller format. To give you an idea of the difference between the two, so this is the box for the ink that comes with the 570, and this is an idea of the refillable bottles here. What's great about these refillable bottles is there's a special key on the top, so it only allows you to pour it into the right container. So you don't have to worry about making any mistakes. Believe me, we've all been there before. With these ink packs, they come with a special chip system that can be loaded on here, and this is so that the printer can keep track of how much ink is being run. It can still give you a warning as you get low, and you're able to fill it up while you're printing, so that's very convenient. You don't have to stop the machine, open up covers, and things like that. Now, speaking of opening up covers, one of the ways that we can improve and maintain our reliability and consistency with this is the ability to very easily maintain our equipment. So on the 6370, we have a simple maintenance bay that just opens up right here. And then this gives the operator access to cleaning some of the inner workings here as needed so that they can keep the machine primed and ready to go anytime they need it. What's great about this process as well is there's a QR code right on the printer. So anybody that's never done this before can simply take out their cell phone. They can scan this QR code, and then it's going to take them right to our documentation that will walk them through step by step any process that they need to do from a maintenance standpoint on the machine. So you have that confidence and reliability and knowing that you have that support right at your fingertips built right into the machine here. Now, right behind us and behind the inks over here, and I'll step to this side, you can see we have various sizes of paper that we can use as well. So the 570 is utilizing up to 24-inch wide rolls. When we get to the 6370, we can go up to 44-inch wide. However, we can still use the smaller size papers if you have some of those smaller rolls and you need to kind of use it up. Now, one of the big advantages of the 44-inch size is not just that we can print larger graphics, but now we can nest smaller graphics and get more output out in less time. So a great example of this is actually these coffee mugs right here. But I think to give you a better idea and how you can sort of visualize the advantages of this, let's take a look at our Epson EdgePrint RIP software, where we can take advantage of some tiling, nesting features, as well as step and repeat. And then we also have a lot of color management tools at our disposal to make sure that we get great and accurate and consistent color every time, regardless of which device we're printing to. So we're going to jump over into EdgePrint and show you some of these tips and tricks on how we can take the most advantage of our large printer. So let's take a look. So in EdgePrint right here, you can see that if we have multiple printers, we can actually connect up to 4 printers. And we have them tabbed off here at the bottom. So I have my 570 and I have my 6370 connected over here. And we have some files loaded in already. So right off the bat, here's one of the cool features that I like, is any jobs that I've printed before, I can go to my printed job list, and then I have all of the jobs that I've previously printed, so I can very quickly and easily reprint them again. Now, if we go to our add button up here, we can add jobs into our queue. So we have a blanket that we have here. Let's actually go ahead and send that on to print. And while that one's printing, we'll take a look at it later as we get back to the cameras. But for now, let's open up some other designs and let's see how we can utilize some of the tools within the EdgePrint software. So I'm going to start by opening one of these little towels here. And then also let's open up these coffee mugs, and we want to get some of these fabric samples in here as well. So as you can see, I can open multiple files at a time, and they're all going to go into the queue right here, so we can start editing them. So right off the bat, the visual interface is very easy to understand. What I'm looking at on my left-hand side is all of the files I'm working with. In the middle is my layout. And so I have my coffee mug here. This white area represents the paper that we have loaded. So we have 44 inches wide. So what I can do is I can go to my layout and I can add additional copies, and I can fill up the space very quickly and easily. Now, what's nice about this is we're not processing 8 images. We're only processing 1, and it's using that information to duplicate it over the course of those 8 images. So this is going to save you a lot of processing time versus trying to build this in your design file and then sending that through your standard Windows or Mac print driver. That's going to take you much longer than simply doing what we did right here. And this was just one click, and we set it, and then off we go. But we can also take that a step further, and I can adjust my spacing between copies. If I want to center it out on the paper to make it easier for me to trim, I can do that as well. And if we feel like we might be able to fit more copies in a particular direction, we can rotate our designs, and then we can type out. So I had 8 copies to begin with, but if I rotate 8 copies this way, now I'm saving even more paper, but I'm still getting the same amount of output out. So with that larger and wider paper, we have multiple options in terms of how we want to print these out, how we want to rotate things, and how we want to group different things together. So let's say I wanted to print this layout here, and I wanted to print some towels to go with that. So we have some towels right here. Let's rotate, let's get 2 up here, and then we're going to center that out. But now, let's say I wanted to print all of these mugs together with all of these towels in this layout that I have for both of them now. Here is where this edge print software really comes in handy and makes your life a whole lot easier when you're printing on these larger format printers. As I can now select both of them, and I can click this nest button at the top, and now I've effectively grouped these jobs together. And if I want to center them back out, I can do it just like that. And now I have actually a nesting job over here on my side that I can print all of these together. And so I click print the one time, they'll all come out. And this makes my life a lot easier because now I have the ability of loading as many files as I wish, nesting them, printing it out. And I can nest a whole roll of material if I want to, tape it on the take up of my printer, send it to print, and then go grab a coffee and work on something else. So I really like the ability to do that. Now, switching gears, one of the questions that we had earlier was how we can nest and tile pieces together to make larger graphics. Well, one of the ways that we can do that is by utilizing our step and repeat function. So I have this little ice cream doodle right here, and maybe I want to adjust this size a little bit. So let's get a 12-inch by 12-inch square. So this is the size that we're starting out with. So what we can do is we can go down to our step and repeat, and we're going to enable this setting. And now I can factor in however much I want this pattern to go to. So let's say I wanted this to be 42 inches wide, and I wanted to take this down about the same. So I want an even square pattern. So now I have my 42 by 42 step and repeat pattern. So very easy to just piece that together. Of course, this really depends on where your starting point is. So as long as you have your image cropped appropriately, where that repeat, and if you can see this little yellow ribbon here, picks up right off of here. So as long as we have our artwork set accordingly, this should work out very well. And you can see when I go back to my layout is now updated with my step and repeat pattern.
So if anybody's ever had to try to do step and repeat, you do this in Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever your design software is, man, I'll tell you, trying to take each piece and line them up, it looks okay on screen. When you go to print, usually there's a hairline, white space between. You didn't get it quite perfectly lined up, and then you got to redo the whole step. What Paul just showed with the edge print feature, how that basically just, if you have a repeat pattern image file to start with, you can just go in there and say how wide and how long do you want it to be. it just does it automatically for you. It makes life so much easier, to be so much more faster and efficient in what you're trying to be. If you weren't trying to produce some bulk fabric, it's so much easier to be able to do it that way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's such a big savings of doing it the old way of manually doing things, to just having the system be able to run and do that and do it for you makes my life so much easier.
Absolutely. Great points, Tim. So kind of going to the sort of next topic right here, let's talk a little bit about tiling. So another question that we had was, what if the printer I'm currently using, or maybe the size I'm currently capable of printing at, is not large enough for what I'm trying to put together? Maybe I'm putting together a large quilt and I need to be able to cut and sew multiple pieces together. Or maybe I just need to go beyond my 24 or 44-inch format. Well, one of the things that we can do with that is we can actually tile our graphics as well. So if we're starting with another pattern, we'll click on that, and we're going to go over to our tiling. And let's actually, before we do that, we're going to adjust our size. So let's say, for example, if I needed this to be 6 feet by 6 feet, but we just have 44 inches to work with. So obviously, this is a little bit larger. And actually, let's go a little bit larger than that. Let's go about 10 feet by 10 feet. So clearly, I cannot fit a 10-foot by 10-foot print on a 44-inch of paper in one piece. But what I can do is I can actually tile these into multiple pieces. So that way, I can actually fit them and then cut and sew them later. So one of the ways that we can do this after we've enabled our setting is we can simply just type in or click in the number of tiles that we wish. And if you notice, when I up that arrow, the tile size down here will actually update to the size we're working with. So we started with 10 feet wide. Obviously, we see when we go to 2 tiles, they are now 60 inches a piece, but that's still a little bit too large. However, when we go to 3 tiles, now we have 40 inches wide, and that fits perfectly on my 44-inch wide sheet of paper here, a roll of paper. Now, a couple of other things that we can do down below is we can determine if we want any print overlap. And generally speaking, for most applications, you might have, let's say, a 1 inch of overlap. And you can take a look here when we zoom in, we now have a little bit of excess material for each tile. And this is important. So when I'm sewing this tile, the first one, over to the second one, by having a little bit of extra material, it allows me to create a perfect seam to where my graphics line up very easily. And so this is just one of the ways that we can do this. And now if we go back to our layout, you can see our layout is now updated to show our 3 tiles printing. And I can center these out as well. So this is a great advantage for printing those larger graphics. And if you need to piece things together later, this is one of the great ways of doing it. Now, for our last topic that we'll wrap up on EdgePrint with is the ability to control the color that we're working with. So if we look over here to our color settings, not only can we specify what type of input profiles we're working with, we can also give priority to whatever profiles are already embedded within the file. We have control over rendering intent and how we want different colors to be interpreted. In case you have any out-of-gamut colors, where are those going to go? We can see our output profile over here, which is what the printer is using. We have additional controls if we want to further modify that, although this is a little bit more advanced over here. And in addition to these controls here, if you were working with spot colors, like Pantone spot colors, or if you had custom spot colors, they would actually be loaded in the color replacement field. We don't have any spot colors in this particular file, but we would have access to modifying colors and printing out new and different colors through the color replacement window. So from a color standpoint, we have complete control over how we want our designs to come out. And with the nesting, the tiling, and the different step and repeat functions, we have a lot of capability as far as what we can do with the software to make this as convenient and as easy as possible. So I think that's a good place for us to wrap up our EdgePrint quick little software tutorial to give you kind of an idea of the different items and how we're producing them on the machine to kind of maximize our efficiency. So that's really the last kind of important point I'll leave off is by utilizing all those different functions, we're maximizing the use of our paper, we're minimizing waste, and we're also increasing our print speed by building our layout going across. Carriage already needs to go that way, so we might as well add some more copies, get more output in less time. So all of those things add up to greater productivity and minimize downtime. So with that, I'd like to pass it back over to Tim so we can begin on our next topic.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. That was really good. And I'll tell you, those features are pretty awesome with what you showed with edge print. Something that I know it's sometimes I get the question asked as well. I'm a Mac user, as a PC user, do I need this for every, we have multiple people using the printer. What can I do? And so one of the things, just to kind of highlight one more thing on that software, is the Epson Edge Print software that comes with these printers that Paul was just showing. It is PC-based software. However, the neat thing to this is it really it's pretty powerful software where it can act as a print server. So if you have a small PC, you can put the software on there. And what it will let you do is, if you've ever had the spot where you had one, like a desktop printer, and you have 2 people or 3 people trying to print to it, and you got your stack of prints that you want to make, but somehow someone else's works in between, it becomes a pain in the butt to do, or the printer shows up as it's busy. Having it all being controlled through one piece of software is not a bad way to go, where that way that software you can prioritize who gets, which job goes first, which one's there. The neat thing is with that software, you can set it up as a print server, so shared out on a network, and you can print from a Mac or a PC directly to the Epson Edge Print. And so you print to that software, and those jobs start accumulating on the print on the Edge Print. And those jobs can get all nested together, so you can really minimize the amount of space, or you can have them print one by one. It's completely configurable that's in there. And again, that's another way, if you're printing and you're using multiple printers, or say you have multiple users or designers that are coming up with ideas and trying to get that through on the 1 or up to 4 printers, you have one copy of Edge Print that will be able to drive multiple printers and be able to support a network of a wide range of users on mixed platforms, whether it's PC or on a Mac design. So it's definitely some pretty cool stuff that comes with our 24-inch and above larger size printers that lets us do some neat things. The last little bit that we just kind of wanted to highlight on, and actually I got one more thing. One of the big, this is one of these ones that sometimes people want to know, as you start printing a lot of the work, you probably want to keep track of your costs a little bit more than if you were just using a smaller 8.5 by 8 by 10 size prints. One of the things that with all these printers is there is an accounting tool that will actually keep track of all what you've done. So it's optional. It's not something that the information stays on your network. There's no big brother or anybody looking at it, but it's a tool. If you add this in, you can be able to look up what each job was, how long it took to print, who sent it, but also how much ink was being used to produce that job, how much paper. And if you add in your costs, what the paper cost is or the print cost, you can add in things like design services or setup charges. Thank you, Paul, he's got this coming up. And this is, I know it's probably a tiny font for the screen, but you can really see what's happening and how you're using it. So you can get an idea if it's a large design, that if you're doing a lot of sports apparel, for example, and you can get an idea or the rally towels or spirit towels, how much ink and paper does it actually cost to make that? So if you did get a big job, someone says, hey, I want 1,000 of those, you got a better idea to understand what your material costs would be in there, not just the cost of each one of the towels, but what's the printing cost associated with it. So that way you can find that all. And that's in all of the larger printers have the ability to keep track of all the accounting. So you can see all that. It's one of those things, you probably don't want to do it on a job-by-job basis, but it's good to know periodically, whether it's monthly or how much did you spend this month or how much did you use. So it can help you in planning, like, hey, as we're going into the peak season, we know our volume doubles from the months of October through mid-December. Each month we're going to double our volume at least. And we use 2 bottles of ink a month. And so you know what, we probably should stock up, make sure we have some stuff on hand, and it can help you be a little bit more, proactive in planning what you need to have. The last spot that we just want to highlight, I know there's questions coming in, so I appreciate the questions that are here. We will be responding to those questions. It might not be live as we're going through, but just because we're talking and it's hard to type at the same time we're talking. But one of the things that we do want to highlight is just as you're getting ready for decorating the lives of ourselves and all of our friends and colleagues and customers, what are some tips and tricks that, you know, we get a lot of people asking, how do we, what can we do better? And so based on what Paul and I have heard from a lot of customers, we loved getting feedback and hearing it. That's actually, we incorporate that feedback into our product development side. So we make sure we're delivering, coming up with new solutions that really are what you've asked for. But as we start hearing people, what are the big things we have? And so I'm going to start out with just a couple of things. As you get ready, and we're, you know, the timing right now, we're good. You know, it's at the end of July. So August, everybody starts kind of thinking about what are they going to be doing for the peak holiday seasons. And what are the products they're going to do? There's a couple of things you want to start planning out. So I always say, how do you prepare for the peak season? Think about what supplies or what are the products that you're going to, when we start with the products, what are the designs that you're going to come up with? So if it's coffee mugs or water bottles, make sure your design, spend time right now. You got a little bit of breathing room. Take some time to come up with what are your designs, finalize it, maybe get some feedback from friends. How do you improve it, make it a little bit more appealing to a little bit larger of an audience, whether you sell on Etsy or you have a larger shop and you sell in store or at festivals. Kind of tweak your designs a little bit. Go through, this is the time to try to get that stuff really finalize, get your designs ready to go. So when you get to the busy season, you're not sitting here trying to redesign and do things. It's pretty much print, transfer, produce, ship, and sell, and keep on and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that's one of the spots we have. So get your designs ready. It's always good. The higher the resolution content that you have, the better the quality it is, the better your final products will be. And that's one of those things, I can't stress that enough. There's really having too much resolution. While the files can get big, it's generally not too much of a problem, but having too little always is. So make sure you have good quality designs. Try to do what you can to tweak them a little bit. And then the next part really is this, and I'm sure many of you are well aware of this, make sure you have the supply. So if you've been doing this for a year or two, you can kind of have an idea, how many did you sell last year, how much material do you need? But plan ahead, because sometimes, especially the world we're in today, if you wanted to get some of the materials, Conti's fantastic about having a lot of product. I know we're happy because we're only a few minutes away from their West Coast warehouse location, so we can get our materials pretty quick and fast. But it's one of those things that not everything's always going to be in stock. If there may be other people have some great ideas that use the same substrates. You want to make sure that you're planning ahead and you're getting those orders in now so that you'll have the materials, so you'll have something to sell. But it's not just about blanks. So the spot that I want to highlight on that is there's other things that come in here. So one of the big things I like, especially on my 24-inch, Paul mentioned on our 44-inch printers and larger, we have a lot more media options, or print paper, transfer papers. So we have adhesive tack paper for printing on sports apparel with a flatbed press. We have production paper for running on a roll-to-roll calendar system. We have photo optimized paper for doing rigid products that gives them some beautiful appearance. And there's a couple of universal or multi-purpose ones. On our F570 printer, we feature, it's a multi-purpose, but it really is photo optimized. So when we print, when we transfer, sometimes it looks like there's a lot of ink still on the paper. Trust me, it's not. It's a microporous, instant dry paper. And so it allows moisture, instead of being trapped in the heat transfer process, allows that moisture to come out the backside of the paper. It's a specialty paper that works tremendously well for a lot of rigid products, and also for doing a lot of typical things like towels and fabrics that come with it. It's not a tacky paper though, and so when I'm doing coasters, I mentioned I tape my coaster paper to my transfer paper to my coasters. I use the heat tape to do that, and I like to do that. But when I'm doing stuff with fabrics, it doesn't always work. Fabric shrinks and contracts. And this is where this Pro Spray works fantastic. Just a quick little spritz on the paper. This gives it the tack it needs. It will stay stuck to the paper, or the paper and the fabric will stay together. So when I put it into a heat press, the paper stays put. I'm not getting ghosting or other spots when I open up my heat press. So the paper's not shifting around. This stuff can be a lifesaver, and a little can like this goes a long way, but it's definitely always one of those things that it's a little secret tool that really helps make life a lot easier when you're trying to produce and not have as much waste or misprints when it's going on. So make sure you have good designs, make sure you have the right blanks and supplies, but also make sure you have when you're running your shop, you have the right type of supplies. You have enough of those on hand so that you're be able to run the equipment. You'll be able to run your designs, you run your shop without having to try to figure out some improv way of doing things. It's a lot easier to have the right tool for the job, and that's why I always want to make sure have enough supplies. As I said, this stuff, I don't believe there's an expiration date on it, so as I said, a little goes a long way, and if you don't use it all during the peak season, just like on the coffee mugs, you can still use those throughout the year as your sales go on, but make sure you plan ahead with that. And I want to just, I know Paul's got a couple more tips, ideas, and stuff here. So I'm going to hand it back over to Paul because I think I've talked enough now. But it's always one of those things as we get ready for that peak season, we really do want to make sure that not only do you have the right tools to get the job done, you got the right designs to get there. We really want to have some more fun with how do we keep going? How do we take advantage of the opportunities and really, get as many sales as we can and really thrill people to color their life. So, Paul, if you don't mind, I just add a couple more points to that, and I'll stop talking.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I like to try to do that I feel is common practice is preparing your designs ahead of time and having everything ready to go maybe the day before the actual production takes place. So one of the things that I like to do is if I'm getting orders coming in overnight, I can pre-process them. I can set up a quick set within the EdgePrint software, and then I can also utilize hot folders. So hot folders is a great way to kind of maximize and boost your productivity within your production. So imagine having a folder on the desktop of your computer, and you have all the files that you need to print. If you could simply drag and drop them into a folder, and then the folder takes care of the rest, that would be a nice workflow, wouldn't it? Well, guess what? We have the ability to do that with hot folder utilization within EdgePrint and also with some other products that we have as well. So we can take files, we can drop them in a hot folder. Those are going to pass through a quick set, which has all of our different print parameters, depending on what type of materials that we're printing on and what type of materials that we're transferring to. And we can have multiple hot folders for each one of these designs or applications, if you will. So I may have a hot folder for all of my coffee mugs or for my photo metal, for example, while I may have another hot folder for my towels or my blankets. And when I get those jobs in, I can drop them in their respective folders, and then the folder in EdgePrint takes care of the rest. So that's a great way to kind of get a head start and a leg up on the production. Now, another thing that you can do is you can try to nest and group all of your jobs together as much as possible so that you can maximize the use of the roll that you're printing with, and utilizing the take-up core that you can get on the 6370 production edition. You can actually load a brand new roll, tape it onto the core, and then you can print until that roll runs out. And that is probably the most efficient way of utilizing your time and grouping things together to maximize that productivity. Now, another thing that I always make sure of doing, and this is probably one of the more overlooked aspects of it, is making sure that we're staying on top of the maintenance. Now, while these printers don't require very much maintenance, they have a fabric wiper cassette that takes care of a lot of that maintenance. There's still a little bit that you want to do to make sure that you're always achieving the best print quality. And one of those things is to make sure that the printer runs its automated cleanings. You run your nozzle test prints to make sure that you have everything firing and everything looks good. And that is kind of the best way to get your printer ready and primed for production. The last thing that you want to do is load up a bunch of red blankets that you need to print, and then, I have some missing nozzles in my magenta that maybe a simple cleaning would have quickly taken care of that. But if I start my prints right away and I'm going and working on something else, I may have several reprints to do because I just didn't take those few minutes before my production day to make sure that my printer was properly maintained and ready to go. Now, these printers are designed to be ready to go when you need them, but sometimes if you haven't printed for a while, you need to get the juices flowing, kind of like keeping your car in the driveway. You want to fire it up and drive it around the block every now and then. So you want to make sure that you do that with the printing equipment as well. One other thing to make sure of when we're talking about stocking up supplies is make sure that you have plenty of ink on hand, especially for the busy season. So it's good to have an extra set on hand. So that way, when you do come time to have to switch inks, you already have one prepared and ready to go. And then you can replenish your shelf stock as needed, as opposed to replenishing, this was my last ink, I have no more, I need to get something. Last thing you want to run into is a supply issue, and then you have to wait for things, especially with everything going on today. So be sure to stock up on not just the blanks and materials, but also the inks and the paper. So that way you're prepared for whatever the production life throws at you. So that's the most important thing, is being prepared for that. So with that, I'd like to kick it back over to Tim, and we'll kind of get to the concluding part of this portion of our presentation and get to some questions and answers.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. I know I'm trying to do some questions while we're doing this. So as far as the questions go, we're going to be responding to those. I know we're probably not going to do it live because I think we only have a few more moments left. But there is one big secret that we have not talked about yet. And this I can't stress enough. I know if she's watching, Michelle Brown, she's one of our account reps that we work with at Condi. And I'll tell you that if you have questions, you have ideas, what are the trends, get in touch with one of the biggest things that who knows this the best is the team at Condi. They can tell you ideas and trips and maybe some new product ideas that maybe if you're doing these, maybe these might be some good options. They are the secret weapon or the secret to be able to crack that success. Make sure you take advantage of them, because not only can they help you with some ideas if you're doing things, but there's always new products. It's amazing. I spend hours sometimes looking at all the new types of blanks and items that the team puts together and the videos that are up there. It's a tremendous way. It's a great resource to really help you not only use the equipment and the ideas, but if you're looking about some of the new type of what are the actual final products that people are going to buy. The customer's going to buy a drinkware. They're not going to buy a printer or the other things. These are the things that really matter, and that's where the team is really good about showing some new ideas and new products all the time. So it's good if you don't know them. It's always good. I'm sure I know there's a community on the app. Make sure you ask questions. So that said, I think we're used up pretty much almost all of our time. We are going to be answering the questions. We're going to do that after we're done with the video part. We'll start responding back as many questions as we can. And certainly we appreciate your time today. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And Sprite, I think we're going to say thank you very much. We're going to bring it back over to you. And look at all those beautiful items, like all those things that are there. And I got to be honest, we watch a lot of your videos to learn some tips and tricks too. So I appreciate it. But we'll hand it back over to you, and we really appreciate the time that you.
Well, thank you guys so very much. This was so informative, and most people are drooling right now. They really, really want the printers, which I understand. And actually, most of these back here, we do print on, if not the F570, then the 6 series, the F6 series. So, Thank you guys. But before we go, I do want to announce my winner of the Christmas in July box, and that is Eldrick Connors. So Eldrick, do me a favor, email me swood@condi.com. That's SWOOD@condi.com. And thank you guys. This was fantastic. So, and also thank you for that F570 grand prize. So guys, if you're registered, which you are, you're already entered to win, and I'll announce that winner next week. So thank you so much, guys. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sprite.